Okay, so today we're doing more linear city stuff. We found our Q's, so I'm going to write them down. Okay, so these are the quantities faced by the firms, where C is equal to 2. And so building these profit functions, it looks like this. So to build our profit function, it'll just be Q of 1. This is for firm 1. Okay, so this is it. And then for firm 2, firm 3, okay? So I'm not going to go through every single component of the math here. Because we're doing a system of equations, what I do is not necessarily what you're going to do. And my way might not be the best. It might not make the most sense for you. And so I don't really want to go through every single step. I can even just explain most of the steps now, because a lot of the math is pretty easy. So maybe I should have wrote like a common pi of I is equal to Q of I times P of I less 2. Okay? This works for all, okay? And so what you do is you do a partial derivative with respect to Q of I believe. Nope, wrong. Wrong. P of I. Because you're trying to maximize price. You do a partial derivative with respect to P of I. Okay? And then isolate P of I, P of J. The reason why I wrote P of J is for some of these, that's what I did. So for example, I guess I'll do this just to show you. When you do your partial derivative here with respect to P of 1, I'm not even going to bother doing these are easy partials, so that's a T, not an F. Okay, so you do this partial, and why I said P of I, P of J, because you're doing a system of equations, the more variables you can isolate, because your end goal here, find P1 star, P2 star, P3 star. So you're trying to find where P1 star, P2 star, and P3 star are maximized. That's why you're doing this partial derivative. But because there's multiple unknowns, because there's multiple unknowns, you have to solve for a system of equations. So in this case, I isolated P of 1 and I isolated P of 2 because I know I'm going to need them both. Or it gets easier the more you isolate, right? So we've isolated P of 1 and P of 2 here. So this would be P of I, this would be P of J, where j does not equal I. Okay? And so that's why I kind of put that there. You could technically just isolate P of I. Again, fundamentally, you have to do this. And then you have to somehow find P1, P2, and P3. But the way you get there is all up to you. Because what I did, here, I can like explain what I did. For the first partial derivative, I just isolated for P1 and P2. For the second one, I just isolated for P2. And for the third partial derivative, I isolated for P3. That's it. So I have 4 here. And then because P2, I had isolated it. So because I isolated P2 twice, that gave us P3 is equal to 7P1 less 2T less 12. And then I used 5 and 4 to give me P2, another P2, and then I isolated to get the explicit P1, okay? Maybe I should show my steps. I really don't want to. The issue is, if I show my steps, the last thing you want to get in a habit of is thinking that you have to do it my way, because your math is going to look different, and I want you to think for yourself like how you want to get there. Because, quite frankly, I might not have all the answers. Or not that I don't have all the answers, but like when you're solving your own system of equations, you're going to end up doing it your way. Like you might insert something else in there. You might put something else. Or you might isolate for P2 first, where I isolated for P1, and then you put this there. And it's like, well, if I show you everything that I did, is that going to be more confusing or less confusing? Because it's like, I don't know. This isn't like hard math or anything, but it's like, it's something that you just got to get to point A to point B. And in this case, it's 3 points you have to get to, P1, P2, and P3. So you're just isolating. Like you're performing all 3 partial derivatives, okay? You're doing pi 1, or profit 1, profit 2, and profit 3. Okay, you're doing all these. Then you're isolating as many p-values as possible, and then you're subbing in your isolated p-values. So if you have, like, this is just an example, if you have like x of 1 is equal to like 2x2 plus 3x3, and you find that like or that x3 is equal to like 4, okay, let's just say you've found that. You're just subbing 4 back in x3. So that's all this is. You're just subbing in your isolated p's into different blocks. You have to perform all 3 partial derivatives. I tried to do this originally with just 2 of them. And I thought, maybe I can like find a way, and maybe there is a way, but I wasn't able to find it. I solved all 3 partials, and then I started to perform my system of equations, okay? And that's it. Like, for the linear city question, you're finding the quantities that your firm is faced with. You are making your profit function, and then you're maximizing for price. And that's it. And even if there's only 2 firms, you still have to solve a series of equations. It's just easier. There's just only 2. In this case, there's 3. So it's like more steps. Like I probably did like 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 9 different like isolated p's. It's like my way was probably not super efficient either, right? Like you probably could have done something more efficient than I did. But that's kind of like the breakdown. I also find that like it's hard to like read what I'm doing on the board. because I don't have like a very good setup. And so it's probably best for me to like more like explain things than do the actual math. Because I don't think the math is difficult. I don't think the math is difficult. I think what's difficult is like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. For all your economics problems, it's going to be like understanding the story, understanding what you're actually supposed to be doing. That's the difficult part. Like it's not like the math can be tedious sometimes, but it's not going to be like difficult if you have sort of like knowledge on what steps you're supposed to take. Then you're good. I'm not going to go through like all the pedantics of how to solve like a system of equations today, because I don't think it's helpful. But yeah, that's what you do, and then you're done. Like once you've found, you're basically just trying to get rid of all your p's on the one side. So I'm going to give you the answer now. P1 star is equal to 3 over 8t plus 2. Okay. P2 star is equal to t over 2 plus 2. And then your P star 3 is equal to 5 over 8t plus 2. And that's it. Like, you just gotta find them. And they're hidden somewhere in the actual math. So you just gotta you need to continue like subbing in your p's until you isolate. And it's something that you should get really, really good at. It's always going to be tedious, especially if you have like 3, 4, like, you know, with how many values. It's just like, ugh, you know? I don't want to write all that down because I'm like, I'll be here all day. Yeah, pretty easy stuff.